Hey everybody, Artwood Mortgage Team, your favorite mortgage guy on the planet. If you didn't know, just ask me, I will tell you. Wow, fireworks. That's what we had, Friday really, but all last week was just crazy. We had PCE, we had CPI, we had the Fed minutes, or Fed decision, I'm sorry, and then we had the unemployment report. So I'm going to blow through the inflation. It was a little bit more hot than expected. The Feds didn't lower or raise interest rates or anything. So, we got a little bit of bad news on Wednesday when we had the Fed meeting, because when Powell did his press conference, he's like, I don't see us cutting. The labor market's fine. Inflation's a little hot, blah, 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 blah. So we lost a little bit. Thursday, we gained a little bit of that back. But then all of a sudden, Friday, here comes Friday. The jobs report comes out. And if you watch my videos on a normal basis, you know that we're a little bit skeptical of the way that these numbers are reported. That, all of a sudden we have bad data coming up, up to the jobs report. Then all of a sudden, blockbuster reports. Like, how did that happen? And then the next month we get a blockbuster report, but then the month before was revised lower. So what happened on Friday? This may be a longer video, but I'm going to try to keep it short and succinct. So we're expecting over 120 something thousand dollar, 120,000 jobs, and 73 were created, which in and of itself, great for the bond market, great for interest rates. But that's not the kicker. The kicker was the last 2 months prior were revised lower by 250,000 jobs. And so I'm asking, who the heck's doing these numbers? How do you get these things that wrong? And again, I'm going to get not to political nature of it, but I'm going to address that in a second. But the market rallied. So we had seen the 10-year Treasury get up really over the last couple of weeks up to almost 4.5. So they was sitting around 4.4 when all of a sudden it dropped all the way to 4.2. So basically, we picked up, really a little over an eighth in rate, just on Friday, which is great. Right now, it's staying a little bit flat. But now, here's the political side of it, and really not, how divisive the world is right now. But Trump fired the head of the BLS commissioner. The girl that is responsible for this, leads this department that comes up with the jobs report. Now, again, I'm depending on what Trump's rationale was. If it's because he wants to, he's like, oh, you're making me look bad. His bad numbers. That's crap. That's he can go cry himself in the corner or whatever. You can't just fire somebody because you don't like the numbers because it makes you look bad. That's crap. But if he was firing her because they were inaccurate numbers, and what we see even last year, we showed 2.5 million jobs created through the jobs report and everything else. And the audit, as QC, something, whatever, came back and said, oh, we were off by about 1.25 million. So it's off by 50%. So if they're bad numbers as in inaccurate numbers, then fine. She should be let go. Or somebody should be held responsible for not fixing a problem. And the folks that I listen to, they talk about, a couple of different ways of waiting, and, they survey these companies. So a lot of them don't get back to them. So really what I see is the system is flawed, not necessarily the people are flawed. And somebody just needs to take a look at the system and say, we can't continue being 50% off. We might, the only people that are wrong more than we are Major League Baseball players and weathermen, or weather women, or weather people. So anyway, it's interesting. And then we had a Fed governor. We had two Fed governors dissent on Wednesday, which that hadn't happened since 1993. So we may be on the way to, slightly lower rates, because it's not all what the Fed does. You know that. We've talked about that a lot. It's whether or not they're buying bonds, whether or not, there's too much, debt out there that we can't absorb. That's the major thing that moves rates. But it's interesting. Last week was crazy, and I apologize for being long-winded on a 5-minute rant. But I hope you learned just a little something. And if you have any questions, leave them down, or direct message me, text me, call me. Would love to talk about this stuff, because I'm a mortgage nerd, and I will turn your mortgage into a work of art.